we are going to revise on what is a control setup. So let's take a look at this question and we will use this to actually understand. So Adam wants to investigate whether placing onion near a potato will help it to sprout faster. So when it comes to all experiments, it's very important for us to identify the change variable. So in this case, the presence of the onion is the change variable, and the measured variable would be the time that it takes to sprout. Okay, so the question continues. He only has the items below. He may use some or all of them. Alright, so these are the items presented to you. Adam used 2 identical clear containers for his investigation. What items should he put inside the container for each setup? Experimental setup and control setup. Now, before we continue, we have to understand what is the control setup for. Now, there is a fixed template that you need to know. The parts that you need to memorize as a part of your fixed template is in red, and then I will change a different color for you that you need to change according to the question. So the control setup is basically to confirm that the measured variable, so in this case, the measured variable is actually the speed of sprouting, right? So we're going to use a different color to denote it. That the speed or rate of the potato sprouting is only due to, at this part we want to put in our change variable, presence of the onion. Okay, so with this we have our change variable here, which is the presence of your onion, and we have your measured variable over here. So you will need to memorize the part in red as a template to answer what could a control setup be. Now the question then goes on to actually ask you, what should you be using? Now, it's very important that you must not exceed the quantity given. Now, everything else in a control setup will be the same as the experimental setup. The only thing that should be absent would be your change variable. So I'm going to note it here, only change variable is absent. And this is for your control setup. So in this case, you would see that your soy, you're given 200 grams. So you need to split it between your experimental setup and your control setup. So it'll be 100 grams each of soy. And then after that, your potato, there are 4 pieces. You can choose to use 1 piece for each experiment or 2 pieces. But you cannot say 4 and 4 because that would exceed the total number of given. So you have 2 potatoes and 2 potatoes. Last but not least, the change variable must only be present in your experimental setup. Now, you need to be very careful over here. You have to make sure that you give the quantity. You cannot just happily say soy. We don't know how much. So make sure your quantity is there. So these are your quantity, be specific. And that is how you answer a question regarding control set.